Hello everyone. So now we are moving to week number 7. This week we are going to do a thorough review on the inheritance which you learned about in the previous advanced OOP course. But since we are going to learn about design patterns starting from week number 8, those design patterns will rely heavily on advanced issues related to inheritance. So that's why I want to make sure everybody is on the same page. Maybe the last time you took the OOP course might be a few years ago. So I want to make sure you're definitely fine. So this week, since we're doing a very thorough walkthrough of all the issues related to inheritance, it's just taken about 3 hours, maybe a few minutes strictly below 3 hours, but we're just back to the normal load. So we're trying to stay consistent with the lecture hours. It's just about 3 hours. I'll try to stay strictly below for all the remaining lectures for the semester. Let me just give you a very quick introduction to what we're going to talk about this week, and then you'll do the main work to study the lectures. Okay, as I said before, and we're going to get 3 hours for you this week. And then you're going to actually look at all the parts over here. Notice that we are starting from part number 5. So last week, you actually started lecture 7 already. In that case, we only talked up to the code reuse part by using the precursor keyword for lecture number 7. So this week, we're starting from part number 5 until part 12. So this will be the complete series for a big lecture on inheritance. And then as normal, you also got the iPad notes. So now this time, I would like you to pay more attention to the visual illustration about how we can decide polymorphism and dynamic binding. I did lots of visuals this time in this lecture, just as usual. Okay, and then for those of you who have not started with the ETF tutorial video, it's not really covered by the lecture part, but this is something you will need for your lab number 3, because for this week, you're also supposed to be completing your lab number 3. Okay, so the lecture notes over here is basically an expanded version of what you got from last week. So I just kind of compiled it into a single lecture. You can definitely start from where the lectures start, as you can see from the video. There is one written note over here, which I highly recommend that you actually read them. Okay, maybe after you have gone through all the lectures. Let me show you what the notes look like. If you click on that, you're going to see this notes over here. Okay, let me show it to you. So this one here, it's called static types, expectation and dynamic types, and typecasts. So this written notes is only about 5 pages, and with the diagrams and also with the written notes. So this one summarizes basically all the ideas about substitutions, expectations, static type, dynamic types, and also upward casting versus downward casting. Many ideas are summarized over here. So I would suggest before you attempt your quiz, or even later when you study for your exam, you want to refer to this written notes. I think that will help you. Okay. So that's about the written notes, and let me go on. And then as there will be also an inheritance hierarchy diagram, which I'm going to introduce this time about smartphones. You can also get a zoom in version for this, okay, once you download it. And also, as usual, post your questions on the Google Doc to attend a Q&A. And for the exercises, for this week, we don't have any source code available to you, but I do have some recommended exercises for you to actually complete. So that will definitely strengthen your understanding about inheritance. Number 1, you can click on this link over here to download the source code for the good design with inheritance from week number 6. And then for all the fragment that you will see in lecture number 7 this week, you can definitely just put it onto the that project there from week number 6. So that will be the first exercise I suggest you do. For example, many times we talk about whether a particular line will actually compile versus not to compile, or maybe a cast will actually stay runtime violation free, or it will actually trigger some runtime violation. So these are the kind of experiments I would expect you to do to really strengthen your understanding. And recommended exercise number 2. So for the smartphone classes example, which I'm going to use as a running example throughout lecture number 7, you may also want to maybe open a new project using iPhone New and try to put in all the fragment there to also experiment yourself to see why things work and why things don't work. So again, if you got trouble setting up the exercises, please get in touch with me. I will help you with that. Okay, that's not a problem. So that's about the overview of the study materials you're given for week number 7. Let's now talk about some learning objectives and also milestone quickly. As for the learning objectives, you're going to learn about, well, not really learn about, because you may have learned about this already in the previous course, but to review. static types versus dynamic types. And whenever we talk about static types, it's really about setting expectation on context objects. So that's a very important emphasis on this lecture here. And also polymorphism versus dynamic binding. Okay. And then we're going to talk about typecasting. And I want to really start from scratch, talking about what's really the motivation for doing typecasting. And we got a notion between upward versus downward casting, and also what can really go wrong at the runtime. There's certain precise condition you have to know. But of course, you don't want to memorize any rules that we talk about in the inheritance. You want to understand what's the intuition and rationale behind. That's really something I want to go thoroughly together with you in this lecture. And we'll talk about polymorphic arguments and also return values. So these two properties allow us to build polymorphic collections. So later, for all the design patterns that we're going to talk about, we're going to rely on the notion of polymorphic collections. So it's really important for you to get this idea. If you got any trouble, post your questions or speak to me. Okay. So what will be the milestone for this week? So for those of you who might be already behind, you want to make sure you finish studying the ETF tutorial video. That's really important. And also you have to work on your lab number 3 actually. Okay, you have to basically try to complete lab number 3. And then you want to complete your quiz number 6. That's based on the lecture from previous week. And also you want to start with your lecture series number 7, which is the current one. Okay, I think 3 hours is actually just normal load, but I know that you might be still finishing up your midterm, so try your best. So I think this thorough review hopefully can build to make your life easier later when we talk about different design patterns. Okay, so these are everything you can expect for the week number 7. Off you go, do your work, and then get in touch with me if you need any help.